I can't tell you how many times Jerry Graham has introduced me. I am now about to introduce Jerry Graham, who I have known since 1988 at Fort Benning, Georgia, when she arrived as my assistant chief nurse. She used to say, when she introduced me, that I taught her everything she knows. But now she doesn't remember saying that anymore. Jerry is honoring us tonight by introducing our guest speaker. Jerry?
Thank you very much for such a nice introduction. At some time, I'll tell you all the Herb stories. But I really learned a lot from Herb when he was the commander of the hospital. It was a really great experience, and now I have another great experience. Last October, I think I finished my 6-year gig as a member of the MOAA Board of Directors. It was really a wonderful experience. And I think the things that you really take with you is not just the impact a board member has on the organization, but how neat it is to meet so many really fine people. And so that's how I feel about Rojan. And so, and I really have enjoyed tonight because this soldier, this board member has really got so much energy, so much talent, such a commitment to so many things that are so important. So I'd like to share a little bit of that information, talk a little bit about what makes Rojan Rojan. So I'm going to just share with you a little bit of this wonderful officer's career highlights. So she is a serving member of the Air Force and is a 1999 graduate of Georgetown University with a bachelor's degree in physics and master's in technology management. I think there's not anything that she doesn't do, you know, and just does it all so well. It's really exciting. And so she has had a lot of really important positions and important preparation for all of those positions. So just to give you a couple of highlights, she was a former acquisition officer as a deputy chief in MQ and the special projects deputy program manager, and also was a former military assistant to the assistant secretary of the Air Force Acquisition Intelligence. Is really great. And she's going to go into the positions she's had, and I think you're really going to enjoy hearing them. So, Madam, you can start giggling now. She just enjoys life, enjoys her work, enjoys making a difference, and is really a rock star for MOAA.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Wow, that's it's a lot to live up to. Jerry's introduction, I'm incredibly appreciative of. I would say that Jerry is a great mentor, great friend, and someone that I hope I can keep pace with. She talks about my energy. Every time I'm around Jerry, I feel like I can elevate my game more, right? I will now be traveling with ironing boards, iron, maybe even a steam machine. It's a lot to, it's a high bar to keep up with, but I'm gonna give it a go. I want to just say thank you so very much for allowing me the opportunity to be here with you tonight. I am so very grateful for MOAA and the MOAA organization and all that it's done for the military community. And it's really just an honor to be on the board and then to be given the gift the opportunity to come speak with you all tonight. People often ask me, how did I find MOAA, or how did I end up on the board? And I'll tell you, the journey of a female officer in the military is still one that uh, still takes some striving. You know, in my units, most places I've been the only female, and or maybe the only minority female, and maybe that none of that matters to you. But sometimes, if you're the only one in a room, you notice it, and you can feel a certain way about it. And so it's nice to have support systems, support groups. And there was a moment when I had my third child and he was sick from the daycare center. And they called me and they said, you got to come get him. And I was like, how am I going to do that? How am I going to do that? I'm at work. But there's nobody else because, of course, we don't live near family. And I don't live in an area where I know everybody and that they're just going to pick up my infant who has car seats, right? So I went to my boss and I was like, I got to go. And he looked at me, he's like, why? And I was like, my baby's sick. He's like, can't your husband do it? And I was like, oh, no. Like, my husband is not a stay at home wife, he's a working spouse. And I left. And what I also knew was that the daycare rules are that he can't go back to daycare the next day. You have to have 24 hours of fever free or sick free before you can return. So I'm now like, I'm leaving work. My boss is like, where are you going? And I have to figure out what I'm going to do the next day. And it was at that point I would home, I have my baby, I'm probably on the floor and I'm crying. And I'm like, I can't do this. This is too hard. The ask is too much. How are women supposed to do this? When I said, maybe that's the Jerry in me, was like, I'm going to fix it. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to try and solve the problem or at least work on the problem. And that's how I found MOAA. In my research, I learned that MOAA, in my opinion, is the only organization that advocates on behalf of the currently serving population. There's a lot of VSOs, veteran service organizations, that really work for veteran causes, but MOAA also works for the currently serving. And so there's lots of things that they've done that they don't really talk about. They do a lot of work to help in the family advocacy area. Like right now, just in November, it's now initiated that active duty members can use family savings accounts. And what that means is that you can take $5,000 of pre-tax put towards childcare, which has never been allowed for military, but has been a thing for every other American. Like if you're anywhere else but in the military, that was already a thing. And so now that is also available for military because that every little bit helps when you're trying to figure out how to make it work. You know, they also work on BAH. So right now, I mean, I lead a unit in the National Capital Region, and I am sending orders, like I am hiring people all the time to the area, and the housing prices are out of control. And people have to PCS, they have to come to these areas, but the housing stipend hasn't increased. And so in the MOAA advocacy, there is a piece now about helping BAH because as we're forcing people to move, we need to also make sure that they can afford to live. I am very concerned about all the enlisted that have to come to the NCR area because there's a lot of enlisted, not just 06s, 05s who are in the NCR, but there's a lot of enlisted. And either they're driving an hour and a half so that they can live far enough out to afford the housing, or they're just not making enough for housing. And MOAA is leading the way and helping the currently serving population stay. So when we're talking about retention and recruiting and retaining, these are all things that MOAA has taken an active part of. And that's why I'm so grateful to be a part of it and to help be a voice and to help people understand and put a face on it. Just this afternoon, I was on a Facebook page for Air Force female officers, and they were talking about how women can't find uniforms right now. A lot of the bases are cutting back, and what they're cutting back on are female uniforms because, you know, if you're a small percentage of the population, how many do you need and how many sizes do you need? And so now there's a sharing network of uniforms, and you can say that's good. But in some ways, it's a little sad. And when you think about, should I have a uniform to wear to go to work, and it should be something readily accessible I can buy on a shelf, and I'm glad that there's MOA and there's organizations like that can be the voice for people who can't necessarily say, the reason why I'm struggling is this, and if you help me do this, that you will increase retention, you will increase the population of women serving. So I'm glad to be a part of all that. I will also share that I recently discovered that I have a long generation or long history in the military. I think that's funny. People used to ask me, "Oh, do you have previous affiliation with the military?" And I'd be like, "No, because my parents are not." First generation on my mom's side, she's from Trinidad. She was born there. My dad's American from Pittsburgh. But it turns out not my dad, but my dad's brother, because he's one of five, he served in the Air Force Reserves for many years. And I knew that, but I didn't really make a lot of connection to that. But in my grandma and my grandpa passing, I had seen pictures on the wall and I started asking. And I learned that my grandfather served in World War II. And then in talking to my dad, I learned that my great grandfather, who I still remember seeing and being at his house, also served in World War One. So I'm fourth generation military, and I think that's so cool. And I've hired a military researcher to kind of help me craft that story. And it's been a struggle. We'll see what he can come up with because both my great grandfather and my grandfather were in segregated units. And there just isn't a lot of data. And then a lot of data from that time, I guess, burned in some fire and some paper records when we kept paper records. So I'm still gonna dig, and I think as I round my last corner here in the military, because I'm currently serving and I'm gonna retire, I'm gonna give up the guidon, give up command next summer, and then ride off in some terminal leave and retire. I'm hoping that this military researcher can help me so I can put the whole story together as kind of I'm done to kind of package it all together. And I feel like there's even a National Geographic or something TV show. There's a guy who does this, but it's like $10,000. And so I'm hoping I have a lower option to kind of figure out the history of my family and kind of how I ended up kind of where I am today, happenstance. So with all that, and Jerry, with that incredibly wonderful introduction, I will go through MOA's book of words to share with you, but be very mindful of time and make this somewhat, I don't know if I can make jokes or laugh. There were good ones. We might have to point at the tree again, but we'll see what we can do. Also want to point out before I go too far, I am thoroughly impressed with this chapter. I've gotten to do this a couple of times, and a 60th anniversary is just so awesome. And they wrote it in here for me. It was January 16th of 1963 when this chapter began. I think that's just super cool. I think about that. I know my dad was 13. Just think from then until now. This chapter has been here and serving the community. I just think that's incredible and very impressive, and you should all be very proud of yourselves for being a part of this. When MOA talks about their successes, some of the things that they wanted me to mention, in addition to the ones that I feel passionate about, was the post 9/11 GI Bill, which I'm going to benefit from because I don't qualify for the GI Bill, but I do qualify for the post GI Bill by continuing to serve. And so that will help. That helped me stay in, help retain me for those years, and a benefit that it will help with my kids with the rising cost of college. MOA has helped with the 1% COLA reduction, which has been huge. Um, the survivor benefit plan, right? Just to name a few things that they've really helped with. I also think that MOA at both the local, the council level, and national has also helped with retired pay and taxes. I'm not exactly sure where North Carolina, one of the states where it's 0%. 0%, which is huge. I actually am considering moving to North Carolina because we're just over right in Virginia. Virginia does not have 100%. It's only the first 40. It's a graduating, and I haven't paid attention enough to figure out, but it's only going to get to 40,000. It's not everything. So it helps a lot of people, but not everybody. But I think the legwork and the stuff that you guys have done here in the States is really why Virginia got over the line, because I was pushing for that in Virginia too. And I had a couple local representatives tell me it'll never happen here, Rojan, it'll never happen because they need the money. But when all the surrounding states did it, they had to do it because like people like me are like, we're going to move to North Carolina, just go south below the border and join North. I mean, there's jobs everywhere. Why I got to stay up here if they're going to value military service more in North Carolina? So congratulations. I think that's great. Oh, was there, who did it? Someone in the room? Jerry? Oh, I should have guessed, right? So advocacy, huge for MOA, a great benefit, one of the real reasons and bread and butter of MOA. The second is membership. And this is a very real thing that we all need to talk about. We need ideas and we need your creativity and your thoughts. I am a member of, I think, 2 local chapters in Northern Virginia because it's easy to sign up and pay your dues to be in a chapter. But I've never been to a meeting at either one of them. Never. I can't, when they meet, middle of the day, or they'll meet Thursday at 6, and I would tell you there's probably no good time to get me, right? Because life, the demands of life and the pace we move at is just too much. But what I'm required to do, I think, is too much. And then my kids, the activities and the sports and the homework and the this and the that. And I need childcare to go to some place where I can bring my kid. So it's complicated. So I've never been to the local chapters. And I get all the flyers, I see the stuff, I just can't get to them. So I like the addition of virtual chapters because, for example, I'm going to Zoom at 8 o'clock on Thursday. And that's how the local chapter is going to meet. And it also allows us to connect coast to coast across the globe. So with this week with the chapter, we're going to have a female general just come talk about her experience, her life. And I'm hoping to motivate, encourage, support some of the younger women so that they stay in long enough, right? That they can reciprocate and pay it back. But where we're all at is going to be all over the place. So as much as I dislike Zoom and clicking on the buttons and figuring out how to do it, it's also a real blessing because it enables us to connect and come together in ways that we haven't been able to do before. So MOA is really working hard. It's one of their pillars to really think about membership. How do we increase membership? And honestly believe if you have ideas or creativity or how they brought you in, how we're bringing people in to share, to encourage. In my grand vision, I would love for virtual chapters to find this new crop of people, so much so that there's so many of them that it spins off new virtual chapters, or that you could take the people that you find in the track and also bring them in to the local chapters. But then there's got to be a way for us to participate, right? And maybe it is just something that you can't really do while you're currently serving. Maybe you do need to wait till you're retired and life is a little different in your time balance, that then you can support this. I don't know. There needs to be more conversation between the chapters and MOA about how we do that. The next thing that MOA wanted me to mention was about philanthropy. And I think you guys know that very well. Just listening to the scholarships and the number of kids in the community that you're supporting is huge. And we just need to do more of that, in both the Air Force and the Space Force, because I kind of sit at the intersection of both. Both of those 4-star generals are always talking about it's on us, it's on each individual to be the spokesperson for the service and to try and recruit and retain. And with that comes philanthropy. We have to give, in order to attract and to get. MOA does a lot of scholarships, a lot of promoting of younger people to help them motivate and encourage them to join. I tell people that's kind of how I ended up in the service. And that's a little bit of, I had the best high school guidance counselor who knew I liked math and science and then gave me a flyer to go launch rockets at the Air Force Academy one summer, right? It was all expense paid, philanthropy, for me to go out and learn rocketry. And I was like, this is pretty cool. What I didn't realize is that I was in the database, right? And the Air Force would send me stuff, I'd fill it out, send it back, send me some stuff. They said, go take a PT test, go here. And I'll never forget that on my birthday of my senior year is where I got an Air Force scholarship. And that's what enabled me to go to Georgetown and study physics, right? And I tell people I would have been voted most likely to finish in 4 years, right? Hands down, I think everybody in the attachment would have been like, Rojan, no. 4 years and out. I'm the last one standing. So you just never know. You never know how it's going to turn out. And we just have to pour, we have to give into each one and encourage and support and see what happens, right? But it's by the gift of philanthropy that I'm here. And I was so excited to see all these junior, I think they're cadets, I don't know how to call them cadets in the Navy, with the junior students, because it's like pouring into them and it's the raising them up, and to see, in 20, 25 years, maybe they're the one here standing and talking to the next generation. And that's so exciting. It's so much what we need to do, what we need to do at MOA at all levels. Let's see. So they did say here that MOA councils and chapters has contributed nearly $500,000 to local scholarships. And that's just so incredibly impressive about the groundwork that local chapters are doing. So I personally feel like we've got to figure this out. We got to figure out how to keep the local chapters alive and to keep them vibrant, because it's the touch point to the community. There's no way that a virtual chapter, the ones that I run, can just have that effect, that impact in the local community, because we're each one someplace, and we've got to figure out how to get all those people in with you so that we can, increase our numbers everywhere, right? So MOA actually hopes and encourages you that you will support the MOA national chapters and charities. The next thing is engagement. I don't know how much of a touch point you guys get kind of out of the National Capital Region for MOA's engagement, but MOA does a lot of outreach and trying to touch and reach the currently serving population, because that's really kind of their sweet spot of people who should join MOA. And there's just a lot there. But they also do a lot with spouses, right? They do a lot of financial, educational benefits. When the military changed the retirement system, what they didn't do is really teach people how to manage that money, right? There's a mandatory contribution, and then there's not a ton of information about how those junior members should manage that money, or the value of also adding more, because they don't get what we all got, which is you get to 20 and you get money for as long as you're alive. So there's a lot that MOA is doing that they just don't talk about in that area. They do a lot with VA disability. They do a lot with military caregivers, which is a really new and important thing that people are coming to recognize. I hope that you participate in their webinars. It's again more Zoom, but what I like about the MOA webinars is I sign up for a bunch of them, and I can never attend them. Why? Because they're in the middle of the day, but MOA will send me a link, so I can watch it when I have free time. And I think that's just great. It gives you a month from the time that it was shown that you can click the link and then watch it at your own will. So maybe there's things in there that kind of MOA National's doing that also chapters can do that would also help get, people to participate at all levels. Let's see. The next thing they like to talk about is communication. If you've seen their pillars, communication is a great one. I don't know, Jerry asked about the magazine. Everybody read the magazine? Does anybody read the magazine?
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Mine stack up, not gonna lie, they stack up. And then usually there'll be a road trip or something, and while my husband's driving, I'll try and flip through and read and catch up on them, right? It's just a tough way for me, even books now. I used to be a holdout and say I'll never do Audible because it's not truly reading. You have to turn the page to read the book. And I've given up on that because I can read, air quotes, so much more if I Audible. When I leave tonight, I'm going to Audible, right? And it just allows me to be efficient with my time, because if I have to sit and be still and read, it's nearly impossible to find that time. But I'm always in a car, especially in the NCR, or driving my kids here and there, and I can listen or read a book. So communication is big for MOA. They'd like to know how you want to receive information. Are you getting information? Sometimes I think I get too many emails from MOA, and you have to figure out how to discern the ones that you really need. Now I need like a whole email management system to figure out all the noise coming in, because now we're getting so much email. But MOA does value and want to connect with you with the magazine. And so they asked about that. They want feedback on that. So feel free to tell them and let them know. They're also interested to know if you're on social media. There's so much social media, and even today I was with some college kids earlier, and they said a new thing, and I was like, what's that? I mean, Thread. So it's like constantly evolving, and there's always something new, and to try and keep up, and sometimes it's overwhelming and too much. But really what MOA is on right now is Facebook. So if you're on Facebook, you can connect to MOA and then you can get articles and things like that there. I like that too because sometimes I can get information and then mass send it out to other people and my friends. It's just another way to stay connected. So if you're not getting MOA's magazine, MOA's emails, or on MOA's social media, now is your time to do it. And I'm going to recommend you go to Jerry, right? Because she's good at collecting emails. and I'm sure she would love to help you get connected on that. But I'm also a little joking. I'm more than willing to help and MOA National too. All right. MOA has also been trying to expand and increase their services. They have a really deliberate and well thought process about how they bring on new programs. There is now pods, portable on-demand storage. So if you're moving, you can get that through MOA. They have the pet supplies, they have Office Depot, they have Avis and Budget Rental, they have Everplans. And I mean, I think you guys have the ultimate because you have cruises and you have a way to connect and come together and do that. So MOA has plenty of ways to communicate, connect, and bring people together. But if you have other ideas or new ideas, they're also happy and looking forward to receiving them. And then it says the final strategic priority is resources and making sure that we're good stewards of the money, right? We have to figure out how to make the MOA model viable for the next generation. So if we can't figure out and solve local chapters, if we can't figure out how to solve membership, and how we're using our resources, how we're using our time, our money, then there won't be a MOA as we envision, as we know it for my kids, right? Maybe the fifth or sixth generation of military service. And so collectively, we have to figure that out. So it's on all of us. I think it's a time where any idea, right? Anybody who has thoughts or opinions on that should reach out to MOA and offer them. And collectively together, we have to figure it out because we're at a point where we have to be good stewards of all of our resources, the members' money, the members' time, and to make sure that we have an ongoing organization that lives past us all. All right. So I'm going to flip through a little bit more of this and get to the bottom line. And what MOA says here is that they're reaching people every day with a wide variety of programs, whether through the magazine, through email, through the programs, the services. If you're not on the legislative updates, which is another thing you can get on, I love it. So what MOA has figured out is when they have a topic that they want to reach everyone and then have everyone get to their congressional member. Who was just telling me about somebody when they rolled in 65,000 emails on a cart, and that's how they got TRICARE passed. So they've updated that. And what you do is for an issue, like if you wanted to be an advocate for BAH right now, through the Legislative Action Center, you type in your zip code and it knows who those members are. And then all you have to do is press send and it adds the note to them. It works. I do it all the time. I think I might be on a list with my people because I know it works because they're then mailing me back and replying saying thank you for your interest in this item, and then they tell you kind of what they're doing on that issue. So I really encourage you, not just with yourself, but your friends, because that's the new way of kind of creating that mass communication, those big emails and advocating for an issue is to go on to the MOA Legislative Action Center. And if you need any help doing that, I would love to help you do it because there's some really important things on there now talking about the TRICARE Pharmacy Network, which impacts all of us, which they're also doing BAH, what I talked about a little earlier, trying to increase money. And so every one of us in this room can go onto the MOA Legislative Action Center and then, type your name, your zip code, and then hit submit. You don't have to add anything, but if you want, it allows you a little space to add a personal note. Sometimes I just hit send. And I know it's reaching because I'm getting those emails back from those members. So it's kind of an easy way to create those emails, create that groundswell, create enough energy so that we can get more of these actions completed. The MOA wanted me to make sure that you knew that they were nominated by the Hill newspaper for the 16th year in a row as a top lobbying organization, which I think is pretty awesome and pretty cool because it shows their effectiveness and ability to get things done. Right now, MOA membership has 360,000, over 360,000 members. It's 45% life, 14% premium, and 41% basic. And right now, the split of all of that is 57% retired officers and 25% currently serving and 12% surviving spouses. So just some numbers for you to know about the health of the organization. As both Jerry and I have stated, we're on the board of directors. The board of directors includes 36 members. Each has a 6-year term, and every class rotates every 2 years. So there's a new call that's going to be coming out. Anyone can do it. You know, if Air Force 05 can do it, all of you can do it. And I encourage you, if you want to be involved or you want to see how it's done on the inside. I'm always the type of person that's like, what are they doing? How are they doing? Let me figure out how to get in there. So I figure out how to get in there. So come join the board, come be a part of it, come participate in the meetings, come throw your voice in, because without your voice, there's no change, right? You have to be that influence to put your ideas forward. So the new class that we just had that goes to 2028 started in 2022. So it'll be the next one. And that's where, I don't know how many of you have seen General Gary North. He is now the leader of the board, the chairman of the board. And then most of you may have seen now that there's a new CEO that started in January, and it was Lieutenant General Brian Kelly, BK Kelly, who came out of the Pentagon with his last assignment, really working some personnel issues. So I think he might be uniquely suited to understand the issues of trying to preserve the all-volunteer force and do retention. All right. So what I'm going to kind of wrap up is to say that there's a call to action to each of us, right? I mean, MOA's tagline is it never stop serving, right? And I think that's why each of you are in this room, right? A little bit of social aspect, a little bit of networking, but really that thing that we all started with, maybe from basic training, you know, to be a part of the military service, to serve the nation, and to never stop serving, and that we mustn't rest. I don't know if we'll all match Jerry's energy, right? But we can all do our part. We can all contribute. We can all extend a hand. We can all invite somebody else. We can present an idea that we have. We can all collectively work to increase MOA's membership, increase visibility of the military, increase people's understanding of what it's like to serve and the value of serving and why you'd want to serve, and then to make it such that people can serve, right? Some of those barriers of housing cost or TRICARE costs that we can help change so that the ones that we have can stay and continue to be effective. And so MOA wants to thank you for all that you continue to do, all that this chapter and the council does. North Carolina is one of the best, one of the oldest, and to just never stop serving. So with that, I thank you very much. Yeah. So now there is I have a presentation from MOA. Yeah, so I don't understand why, but they decided to mail that large the certificate. I guess they didn't trust me with the certificate, but I was given the cool pin that goes on the flag that you have, right? Yes, one there, and you have over there. So here is your, I don't know, here's your next pin.
I would like Bob to come up because
Let's do it in front. Right here.
Bob has been our action officer for the 5-star
Level of Excellence Award.
Forever. And without his strong work, we probably would not have all of the nice jewelry on our streamer that we have.
It's a great record of sustained performance, and you all should be very proud to be a part of this organization and the work that you've done. Yes. All right. So I don't know how you do with a pin, but there you go. We got to zoom in, and they say that the beautiful certificate is in the mail.
Oh, excellent.
So
and hopefully when I frame it, I'll frame it nicely, and I won't play basketball with it, and it will arrive with the glass intact.
I don't even want to know that story.
Thank you.
But
very
thank
much.
you. Well, I think one more round of applause because that's just very impressive. Thank you.
Before we let Rojan go, are there any questions?
Oh, yeah. I'll
that you
take it.
have of her?
And I'll go back to the mic so that we can all hear. Go ahead.
Yes, I just have one, and by the way, there are two seagulls in this chapter. There's Kirby in the onesie, and that's good. I'll let you decide to assume,
Okay.
but I digress. I noticed that there seems to be some confusion among the general membership, not of our chapter, but in MOA, as to local dues and national dues. And sometimes it creates confusion because if somebody's a life member of MOA, I believe they pay for a year or something, or 2 years for the local chapter. I don't know if there's any way to clarify that at the MOA level, and how that affects the financial model and so on and so forth. But I think it would eliminate, for the non-life members, it would eliminate some of the confusion if there was a way to at least communicate.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah. I've been on the membership and the member services committee for a while, talking about dues increases and how we do dues. I will definitely take that back. I think that however we're communicating it, if it's in writing or email or on the website, we can make it clear or add clarity to what's a national due versus the local chapter due. That's a great idea. Yeah, people should know what you're joining and what you're paying. Any other questions or comments? One more? Was there somebody? All right. Thank you all very much.
you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And before we adjourn, I'd like to call on Jay Garbus.
Council is presenting this to Herb. Does anyone hear me now? All right. The council is presenting this to the chapter and to Herb. This is the first one to be issued, so he's going to have to take it out of the box to show everybody. It's not a... He's going to have to put it together. I hope he knows how.
It's an IQ test and I'm failing. Oh. Oh my.
There's a wooden thing there. Let me get out the base so you can see what the base looks like.
It says North Carolina MOA Council of Chapters.